like to call the meeting to order at 6:03. Thank you, Area 58, for filming tonight. Would anybody in the audience like to be acknowledged as scheduled at this time? Seeing no one. We need to review and vote the regular session minutes from October 27th.
August 27th.
It is October, from August 27th. Everybody had a chance to look them over. Okay.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we need to approve and release the executive session minutes from April 3rd, 2017, May 1st, 2017, May 8th, 2017, June 5th, 2017, July 6th, 2017, September 5th, 2017, October 2nd, 2017, November 6th, 2017, December 4th, 2017, and January 2nd, 2018.
So if I may, we are obligated periodically to review executive session minutes which have been held. So these are all the minutes that have been held and need to be reviewed. If you would like to take a little bit more time to look them over, I can't send them as an email because emails are public documents. So if I send it as an email, it becomes a public document and is therefore released. So that's why you're just getting them in your packet right now. All of these minutes were during the time when we were in negotiations. All the contracts have been settled, so they're all available to be released. So we can either vote, if you'd like to kind of quickly skim them and release them tonight, or if you would like to wait and we can vote them next month, it's your call. But it is an obligation legally that we have to do this periodically.
I don't have a problem voting tonight if you just take them as.
I looked on already, so they're pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
The only questions I would have is, were there any handouts at those meetings that we don't have?
Besides the contract itself.
Yep.
But to your point,
Just, we need to make sure that on our minutes, we put down what handouts were given as within the meeting. So a list Laura, at the end of our minutes, or the beginning, we need to have a list of the documents that were handed out. So we're, open meeting law. Within our minute, you don't have to contain the actual documents within the minutes, but you have to have written out what handouts were given at the meeting.
I think or listing it on the agenda,
You have to actually have it on the meeting minutes itself.
on the minute, it's not just the actual attachment of the agenda. Okay.
So do you want the next meeting forward? Do you need
Yeah.
to list the attachments?
Yeah.
I don't think we have any handouts in the executive session.
No, we don't.
Just a discussion.
All right. You guys good?
Yeah, I'm good.
So I'll make a motion to approve and release the executive session minutes from April 3rd, 2017, May 1st, 2017, May 8th, 2017, June 5th, 2017, July 6th, 2017, September 5th, 2017, October 2nd, 2017, November 6th, 2017, December 4th, 2017, and January 2nd, 2018.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm going to abstain because I wasn't a member of the board.
Okay, fair enough. All right. Warrants, I think, are all set, actually.
Yes.
Only like 3 or 4?
Yeah, small stack, because he has been coming in
Season.
to sign them monthly, right?
Yep.
Number 15 says I need to go up there, I will sign them.
Yep, he's done a great job. So if you'd like, I could, Gordon stopped in and signed warrants totaling $186,483.52, and he signed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 articles. So I have a list here if anybody's interested. You have payroll warrants that just need to be signed, which go over to Town Hall to go with the payroll,
Right there.
which I now have back. Thank you. Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, ask her something. Appreciate it.
Thank you. School committee correspondence and reports. I don't have anything. Anybody else? Okay. Unfinished business. I don't have any. Nope. New business?
The only thing for new business is under the superintendent section.
Okay. Yeah. Did you talk about the only thing I wanted to mention is that, it's not really new business, but I just wanted to mention that Alex and I went to the, forgive me for, what is it called? Technology safety, internet safety meeting that they put on?
Internet awareness, I think is what it was technically billed as.
Okay, that they put on at the middle
Middle
school,
school.
the DA's office.
Yep, Amanda Fowler.
Yep, and so sent the assistant DA over. They did a fantastic job. It wasn't very well attended, but it was very, very, very informative, and I strongly suggest that when they put it on next year, anybody who has a kid that is using any sort of technology should go and pay attention and listen, and they had mentioned filming it next year and putting it on cable access, which is great for people who can't make it down when they
Right.
hold the meeting, but it was pretty informative and fantastic, a little scary.
Pretty eye-opening.
Yeah.
Pretty eye-opening, but, in this day and age, we now have like our elementary students using technology all the time, anything from an Xbox to an iPad, so I suggest people go and take a look at it. So, that's the only thing I wanted to mention. Anybody? Oh, I knew there was something else.
Something else. I'll just do it on my own.
Okay. Do you want to talk about it?
So, yeah, I drafted a quick thank you or acknowledgement to the gentleman who is in charge of the local Walmart for donating some water. Yep.
And keep us, up to date with any, decisions you guys make and
We'll
whatnot.
have, I hope to have for November all the budget numbers.
Great. Great.
Just like next month, like
Right,
weeks ago,
yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Joy?
Thank you. I did want to mention, as I said, I had asked Melissa to come. Melissa neglected to mention something that she just did and accomplished for us, was she got a grant for $29,250,
Wow.
competitive grant, just for Halifax, and also for Kingston. It's an early literacy grant, and she was just awarded that. So it was a competitive grant that she took the time in her spare time, because there's nothing else going on.
Yeah.
To
sure she
fill
has
out
tons of it.
Yes, to fill out the grant. So, Melissa's really done a great job of getting us grants in various areas, science and other things. So this is one that was just awarded, and we're really excited that she was able to secure that for our students.
Great.
It provides a literacy coach. So it essentially, it's a person.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's a DESE, designated literacy coach, that would come in and work with our K-1 and 2 teachers on implementing the 2017 frameworks.
Okay, so it's for the student, the teachers, not the students.
Well, it's,
Obviously, it benefits the
Right,
students, but I
yes.
mean, like, the interaction is with the,
it's a coach, so it's a coaching position, so it's, we did it 2 years ago. We hired a writing coach who came in and does some common planning with teachers, goes in and models lessons for teachers, observes.
Which means the students are getting the lesson,
Yep.
and the teachers
right,
watch.
but they're, okay.
Yes, what I
Oh,
mean?
okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
So-
Exactly.
Okay, so
Yep.
it's not like a PD type of a
No,
thing?
No, no, no,
Oh,
no.
oh,
It's in the
okay,
classroom.
It's 200 hours at school during school.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so so we're really excited.
Embedded PD.
Yep,
Okay,
yep.
Cool.
So
That's
really
awesome.
appreciate her taking the time to do that.
Yeah.
I suspected she might not mention it, so I remembered to make a copy. Building update, I think we went through that. We've been thoroughly enjoying that
Oh, yeah, we're
process.
getting-
I can't tell you how excited I was walking through the building with Kane on the outside the other day. I was thoroughly not impressed. Bus discussion, you asked me to leave that on the agenda. Did anyone want to discuss that at all at this point, or everything's quieted
No,
down?
not really.
Yep, me too.
be
Thank you.
honest.
Excellent. I've had plenty of discussions on that myself.
Yep.
We're going to continue to monitor numbers. Right now, we are at 609. Actually, I'm going to go from bus discussion, if it's okay, to October enrollment, because it sort of impacts it. It's that, I don't know what color is this, coral pink? I'm not sure what the color is.
Ask Kane, he probably has some shorts that match the color.
He probably does.
Yeah.
Salmon?
Socks
It's-
are pretty
yeah,
cool, Zach.
it's really good. So, So if you go on the side that says enrollment first, where the numbers are a little bit bigger, Halifax is right across the top, and you can see for each grade level, the large grades in Halifax are the current grade 1 where there's 93 students and grade 2 where there are 99 students. If you look at the other grades, they are in the 80s, and grade 3 is our smallest grade at 79. If you continue all the way across that top line, you'll see in grade 7, there's 83, grade 8, 84, you're sort of going across. And then look over towards the high school, you have grade 9 is only 66, but then again, you have those couple that have 90s and one at 80. So Halifax has got these little sort of bubbles of population. I don't know how to explain it. I don't know that there is a way necessarily of explaining it. I guess the thing to take away from it, though, is if we keep the numbers sort of in the range we're in, we are in good shape in terms of 4 teachers per grade level.
I thought our kindergarten class was bigger than that.
Originally, we thought it was going to be, but it turned out to only be 82.
That's good.
And this is what happens. So right now, we have 4 teachers in every grade level.
Yep.
So based on these numbers, we are in good shape in Halifax to maintain the numbers that we have. I anticipate, and again, it's been reasonably consistent, that we'll be somewhere in the 80s, possibly 90s. But right now, we're in good shape with our numbers, with our enrollment, and it's pretty consistent right through the district. So Halifax is at 608 K through 6. The regional total for 7 through 12 is 507. So you can see that those couple bubbles are what really made the difference for Halifax.
Wait, what?
Oh, I'm sorry,
What
it's
did you just
507
say?
at the high school and 167 at the middle. I'm sorry. So, no, it is a total. I'm sorry. No, it's a total for the region from 7 through 12 of 507.
Oh, 7 through 12. I was like,
Yeah,
how do
7
you
through
get a
12.
smaller number?
Yep, I'm sorry.
Okay.
So there's less numbers on the secondary level than on the elementary level. So that will impact if you flip over the chart, and you can see the percentage of Halifax that are in the Union versus Silver Lake. So again, 608, which is the K through 6. SL is 7 through 12, 507. If you go down in terms of assessments, Halifax should be fairly happy with Silver Lake this year, because last year we had 32%. This upcoming year for the budget, they will only be asked for 31.4% of the budget, okay, because they have a less of a percentage of the students at the regional level. Does that make sense? Yep. Okay. So Kingston, unfortunately, for Kingston, went from 55.7 to 56.3. So they had the increase this year. Plimpton stayed exactly the same. So it's kind of interesting. On the union level, Halifax had a slight increase. The union budget is the budget that pays for my office. So that's where those percentage increase will be. And it's a very slight increase of 0.2%. So this will be an important document. I'll make you another copy of this when we actually start putting together sort of the budget book or budget folder, but I just wanted you to sort of get a sense of where we're at for that. And in terms of buses, again, the first student was able to get us some 78 passenger buses as opposed to 72, which gave us a little bit of extra seating capacity. But we are on the edge on buses. But an extra bus would be only a Halifax bus, so it would be extremely expensive.
55.
Somewhere around 55,000. Yeah, it would not share the
Right.
cost, because we don't need them at Silver Lake. So it would be very expensive.
But didn't we say that?
We're donating cases of water and some tablets and leftover school supplies, I believe. Yes. As part of the very hot and humid first week of school, and helping everybody get back in the swing of things. So just wanted to reach out and say thank you on my behalf.
Do they donate a lot of leftover school materials? It's looking by the eyes, yes. Yeah,
Yes.
that's great. That's great.
Actually, it just came in today. Yeah, they called us last week and they said, come on down. done. It's right behind that purple curtain.
Awesome.
So that was definitely above and beyond, I think. So
Yeah.
that was pretty great.
Oh, they've been
Yeah.
fantastic.
So is that a letter that we should send from the school committee?
If you want to forward it to my office, I could have one of the secretaries sort of clean it up and put it on official letterhead,
Okay, sure.
if you'd like that.
Sure.
And then, yeah, the reason I wanted him to bring it up in the meeting is because I thought it would be nice if it came from the entire committee. So that way, I wouldn't ever have anybody sign my own name to anything until we all talked about it. So if everybody's okay with that, we can just list all of our names and have it be from the committee, if that's cool with everybody. Do we need to vote on that? I know in the past, we've had issues with sending letters to different places.
I mean, it wouldn't hurt to
Okay.
do that.
I think that
Just to make sure
we
that you're
should.
all clear.
Okay. Can you
Say what?
can you be a little more specific?
The drafting of the letter,
Okay, and have it come,
as stated and discussed,
okay.
et cetera, et cetera.
And it's pretty standard. Thank you for your generosity.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Important part of the community.
Thank you, now I read it, thank you.
Yeah.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Okay.
I'll send that to you.
Sweet. I knew there was something else. Okay.
Put it on my list right now, I'm gonna forget.
Thank you for doing that.
Anybody have anything they want to talk about the next school committee meeting that they can think of right now? Okay. Report of standing committees. Policy? has not
I
met.
still have not had a chance to submit that yet. It's in process.
Negotiations? Has not met.
The meeting? Nope.
PAC?
Yeah, we met last week. Their budget was passed, their audit was accepted and passed, and for the first time in a couple of years, we actually are getting a reimbursement from them because they had such a great year, and they had more tuition than they expected, more kids coming than they had expected. So each of the member districts, that's one of the benefits of being a member district of the PAC, is that when they do have a surplus, the money will go back to the town, and it goes percentage-wise based on how many kids you have and stuff. So our town Halifax is getting $12,058 back as a credit. So Silver Lake as a whole is getting just under $30,000 back.
That's awesome.
We obviously
Wow.
think that's the biggest for all three towns plus Silver Lake. So-
Right.
So, yeah.
So have they just given credit towards this year's tuition?
I believe they
That-
contact Joy, and
Yep.
she decides what she wants to do.
Yeah, I work with Marie, and we get tuition credit. It's the best way of doing it. Yep. There's always a lot of movement, so it's a good way of doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. So and currently Halifax has 3 students attending the PAC, and once again, they thanked us for giving the space at Halifax Elementary School.
They do pay rent, by the way. It's not a free space.
Yes, sorry.
It's
But
okay.
we're giving them space. Sorry.
Yes.
I mean, having space.
Well, I just wanted to be clear.
But not every school has room for them.
Yes,
So they're
correct.
very thankful that we have some empty rooms.
Right. This will be the last year they have the program here, though, just so you know.
Not big
So
enough anymore?
there is not enough students in that age group that they need it.
I guess it's good.
Yeah. They have a Seaside Academy. It's where the students of that age group are going, so.
Okay. Youth and Rec? Is that me? Is that you, Gordon? Is that me? It's you. It's one of us.
I did not attend the last meeting. So
Okay. Do they, I don't even know if they have meetings. I think you just
Pretty
called
sure I
Dick.
was just an alternate on that.
Maybe it's me. Maybe I dropped the ball on that. Sorry. If there's anything of high importance, I'll send it to you, Joy, to relay
Sounds
the
good.
message. How's that sound? Perfect. PTO?
So PTO had their kickoff meeting on the night of the open house, and it was pretty well attended. I was rather impressed. And their hot agenda items are, well, we had a great talk about busing. And Kane kind of took the shield to the forefront on that one for me. But talk about busing, and they have the book fair coming up, where it's here now, right? Right
Yep.
here.
Yeah, start today.
Halloween social, and they're still desperately looking for volunteers for breakfast with Santa, and then not as much, but they still do need help with the Docent Art program. It's, I don't know, I think Docent is like a program, but anyway, it's parents and different people in the community who come in, and actually, there'll be a different artist of the week or an artistic period, and they'll go into the classroom, and it's separate from art class, but it's kind of like go over, different significant artists or different, pointillism versus modernism. Pretty good program.
Like
Kids
an
seem
enrichment
yeah.
kind of a.
Cool. Kids are very excited about it.
I'm not sure exactly. It's almost like every homegrown has a parent. It just kind of rotates through for the theme of that one. So it makes sense that it would be once a month. It's pretty good.
They said a common misconception which leads to people not wanting to volunteer is that people assume that you can only volunteer for your own child's class, but it's open to everybody that's willing to participate. So.
And you don't have to know anything about art.
Nope.
That was the other
Nope,
thing.
there's a little primer packet you get that'll kind of give you bullet points of what to hit on for the presentation. And they have a meeting Friday at 9 a.m., this Friday.
Who's going to that?
I should be able to make it. If not, I'll lasso my wife or something.
Okay. Capital budget, not yet.
Not yet, no.
Admin review is coming up.
Thursday night at 5.
Okay. Union 31.
No meeting.
Okay, Mr. Beaudry. You're up.
All right, so enrollment is at 600.
That the upgrade from first student is like just a kind of a complimentary thing this year?
It is complimentary this year. It's a bit of a Band-Aid. So we're going to need to continue to talk and think about
Yeah.
how we want to handle things going forward.
Was their contract up?
Yeah. I think,
We extended the contract. We had a 3-year contract with a 2-year potential rollover. In the past, we have always done a 2-year rollover. This year, it was voted by school committee members to do just 1 year.
yeah.
So we only have a contract through the end of this year. So it is something that, we will be talking a lot more about.
Yep.
And I've just begun to have some offline conversations about the possibility, what some districts are doing, which is providing some cost savings, is doing a longer contract where they can sort of flatten out the increases, and you can get better deals, I guess. The last negotiations was really terrifying, because it was the day before school was starting. I'm kind of like, we really need those. We'll pick your kids up, honest we will, I know, but I really want it in writing. So, it was tough, but we're going to continue to work on that. But I did just want to let you know, at this point in time, it's sort of on the back burner. We are on the edge in Halifax. We'll have to make some decisions.
Are you hearing from parents or anything?
We have heard nothing at all recently, I'm happy to say. On buses, it's gotten quiet. Everybody sort of has adjusted.
I know they were looking for more people to fill the spots at the YMCA, like people to work.
Yes,
Did they get
yes.
that, and did they
They
open up more
did add
spots?
somebody. They did definitely
Okay.
in the afternoon times.
It was the
Right.
big one with the afternoon?
Right. Legally, although all of our towns pick up all students, legally, we do not have to transport students who live within 2 miles of the building, but we pick up all students. So, I mean, if the school committee could make a choice to to make that decision, I don't think it would be a popular one with the community.
You think?
Educated guess.
Discourage parents.
Yes. But,
Right.
that is a possibility. I would not recommend it.
No.
I really would not,
I
but
think
it
we should
is,
entertain that
it is an option. I don't think it's a good option, but it's an option to think about.
Well, Bob, they'd bring the ripe fruit and be sitting right in the front.
Yeah, just going to
He's a
say
lot
that.
closer than we are.
My car is way too recognizable. I would be in big trouble. REAP grant, I wanted to let you know, we did get the REAP grant again this year.
Fantastic.
Yes, I know, I was thrilled. And I did a little research because I was trying to figure out what was going on, and this is what I discovered,
Right.
which I did not know, was the allocation formula has changed, and it's now the number of students in average daily attendance minus 50.
Fantastic.
Minus 50.
Mine is 50.
Oh, so we're out of the
Yeah,
woods.
I
Invite
know.
all your friends, everybody.
Yeah, I know. So I
That's
don't
awesome.
know at what point, but I couldn't figure out why we kept getting it
And
when we were.
600 is the cutoff.
600 is the cutoff.
So that's great.
Yeah, so
Minus 50. so-
minus 50,
Right,
yeah, I don't know where that came from.
That's average daily attendance. So
Right.
you decide like 5% might miss a day.
Yeah.
3%,
Yeah,
5%?
yeah, so
Okay.
we've got a ways to
We
go.
got
So
like
we
70 or 80
should still be able to
students
get this for a while.
Yeah, we're doing it right.
So I was really excited when I found that. I didn't either. As I said, I was sort of trying to figure out, like, you know, what the criterion was, because last I knew, it was
Yeah.
600, and that was
The
it.
checks keep coming.
Yeah. it's like-
Without asking questions.
Yeah, well, I didn't want to have to pay it back.
Yeah, I know, that's what I mean, without putting
Yeah.
any
I was
red
like, maybe I
flags.
better just make sure we're really supposed to have this check.
Yeah.
So I found
That's
that,
great.
I found that, and I was pretty excited. Stop the Bleed training. So one of the things that I've been trying to focus on is safety of all of our students. And there is a new training that has become available, and one of our school committee members in Kingston works for the fire department, and he has been offered to do the training for all of our staff and all of our buildings for free, which is fantastic, and it's called Stop the Bleed. I actually sat through the training in Kingston, and it is training on the use of tourniquets, the appropriate use of tourniquets. The program was started, I always have trouble saying this, I'm sorry, after Sandy Hook, because a lot of the students wouldn't have died if people knew how to appropriately use a tourniquet, because young children bleed to death so quickly. So this program was started. So each classroom, we're purchasing kits for each classroom with tourniquets in them, and each classroom, every place that there would be staff members, children, will have these kits. The training takes about an hour. It's a very basic training. It's very easy. It's a PowerPoint presentation. The fire department comes in. Mike will be coming in with your chief, Jason, will come in with some other firemen here. And it just goes through the problem that tourniquets used to have is they were too narrow, and so it actually cut off your veins, like it actually cut into you.
Oh.
They were too narrow before, and that's why people stopped using tourniquets. So the new tourniquets are wider, so it doesn't cause the damage to your veins that the other ones did. So that's sort of what they have discovered, because that's part of why tourniquets sort of went out of favor, was that they just have wider base tourniquets. So it's really about if there's a wound, stuffing it with gauze, and how to appropriately use a tourniquet, and just some basic first aid knowledge. So I'm really excited. We're going to bring that into all the buildings at this point. KES and KIS have already been trained. We have the middle school and high school. We're doing a sort of train the trainer model, because they're so big that we can't actually train everybody at once. There aren't enough people to do that. And so they're going to have that in early November. Halifax, I think it's December 19th. My son's birthday in Australia. I remembered that date stuck in my head. So they'll be doing the training here, and I think Kane has worked with PTO about the possibility of funding the kits. So that will be some of the money that PTO raises will be funding the kits. So we've been working our way through it. The kits, Mike was able to get us a really good deal on the kits. So again, every classroom will have an individual kit, and then we'll have one large kit, which will be stationed near the main office, which will have like 5 or 6 packets in them. It is something I hope we never have to use, but
Better
it
to
is
have it.
something that is really good training for everyone,
So
even
life-
not in the classroom. It is life-saving. I live on the Cape, and when they had the first shark attack, the gentleman was saved because someone had just done the Stop the Bleed training.
Really?
Yeah.
So question, is there an opportunity for some of the older high school students to be involved in this training?
We actually do CPR with part of our health classes.
But that's not first aid, though.
No, I know that. And so I think probably as we get the staff trained, we'll be able to work our way down through that.
Okay.
But we started,
Students fluctuates a little bit at the beginning of the school year as some students are moving in, or they're having houses built, or so forth, but we've been pretty solid in staying right on that number. Most recently, we had our October PD Day on Tuesday, and the theme for that day was positive psychology. I hope I'm not stealing that.
she shares
And
well.
we had, it was positive psychology, and it was focused on unleashing your inner happiness, which was given by Pam Garrell at KIS. It was very well received, at least from the staff that we had here. We all took a survey, and it kind of identified some of the strengths that you have. which was really kind of neat because we had a lot of jokes in the office about Brian and I and our strengths and how we balance each other. And then a lot of us went home and we gave it to our spouses and kind of had a good joke going. But I think it was very well received. The message that Pam had given was great. It was a long day. It was 3 hours at KIS. But she just had a great way to present the message of staying positive and having that just energy in front of the children. So it kind of follows up from the PD days that we had earlier in the year, where it was just being positive and setting that environment where students are to be successful. After that, we came back here and we had lunch, and Brian and I, we did a debriefing activity with the staff in the library. And again, just kind of followed up and kind of broke up into groups and talked about what we can do here in the building. Building-wide, first sharing our positive psychology experiences and also what they can do in their own classrooms, brainstorming some strategies. But again, it was well received. A lot of the teachers were engaged and on top of it. The MCAS 2018 results are in. Jill is going to obviously share about her presentation shortly. But we sent them home on the 2nd last week. And it's something that we're all learning about. It's a new reporting system that I know Jill will get into a little bit more. So all the results have been shared with our staff, and we're working on, Brian and I are working with grade levels and their PLCs to kind of analyze the data, talk about the new reporting system, talk about now it's a lot to do with setting targets and how you can identify those targets and then what your plan is. And again, I don't want to steal too much thunder from Jill, but get into the nitty gritty of that. But it is something that it's new. It's tough to compare results to last year because they're changing things once again. But I do think when Brian and I did our initial comparison with local communities, that our overall accountability was pretty high. I think there was only maybe Brian's old school that he was at might have been one school that might have had a higher accountability. But we were proud to see that we did so well. Obviously areas to improve upon, but we also want to highlight some of the areas that we did really well. So to be continued with that, as we're all kind of learning exactly what the targets mean, what exactly we can do with growth and with the achievement, and now all the accountability results.
So with the targets, are they giving you targeted information for that test on the subject matter that it covered? Breaking
Yes.
down?
Yes.
Will the teachers have the information for the upcoming year, what the targets are going to be?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, in the sense that you can look at several classes of students and you can look at which students might be having a difficult time in particular areas. In the sense of what next year's targets will be, this year's targets are for this year only. So the targets could change, and we expect some fluctuation and manipulation over the next year because this is still a very new system. So.
The targets are based on your previous results.
So it's based on the student score and not the,
These overall
So-
targets, but like say she'll probably bring up our math achievement. We didn't earn our points because we did very well last year, so they set the target higher. So we didn't reach that target this year.
So they set the target based upon what they consider to be reasonable, a reasonable target of what they should expect you to do the following year to improve. So it's a cycle of continuous improvement. And so in order to meet your target, it doesn't mean that you remain the same. In order to meet your target, you must improve at a reasonable amount, depending upon what the accountability factor is. And when we talk about it tonight, you'll see a number of different indicators that you'll have targets for.
Okay.
So it's a
Moving target.
yes.
Based on 1 year's
Yeah.
worth of data.
Yep.
So as years go on.
It will
you'll be
become
able-
more stabilized,
Right.
for lack of a better term. And we'll have a better sense of trends and perhaps what to expect. But as of right now, we're still just dealing with 1 year's worth of data. And then we're still navigating our way through a very new system.
Because they changed it, you only have a year's worth of data, is that what you're saying? Okay.
Yes, it's a new test.
But hopefully it'll be more clear to you once you see some actual numbers and some examples.
But did you say it's changing again?
No.
Well, this year it changed from last year.
Okay. But next year, we're not
So
going to be
let's
sitting,
hope that
I was going to say,
it's
next year, we're not going to be sitting here and go, well, this is
No.
1 year's worth of data because
Yeah.
it changed
Right.
again.
No.
No, it's not going to be a brand-new test, but you might have new targets.
Okay.
And you might have adjustments with cut scores, for example, as we did with the old legacy MCAS. That's not something new. That's statistically something that's done with these types of tests. So
Okay.
it won't look, the targets won't be exactly the same next year. I wouldn't think. You never know.
Yeah.
But they should not be the same.
Okay.
Jill, get on.
Yeah, I was just going to say,
Sorry, I just wanted to
yeah,
dabble.
you should, yeah, don't dabble. Move on.
The building project, we're moving towards the final stages, making a final punch list. I think that the construction company and the architects, they're working on the exterior punch list. We have a meeting coming up on Wednesday. Anyone who would like to attend, you could do that.
It's one on Wednesday?
3 o'clock.
I don't think so.
No, they didn't tell us.
Scott threw it out there. I saw that.
Once you
No, no,
didn't send
no.
it to us again.
Wednesday,
The years all merged together, I apologize. Maybe 5 or 6 years ago, we started doing CPR at the high school level in health, and a student had just completed the class, and there was a car accident, and he was able to be one of the first ones on the scene and actually help to save somebody's life, and he actually came in and did a presentation. So, I mean, these things, again, you don't anticipate when or if, but it's
Right.
training that's really important to have, so.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, even off of school grounds, they take it with
Absolutely.
them, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a great suggestion. As I said, I think it's going to take us a little while. The high
course.
school and the middle school are very large. I mean, we have a
Yeah.
lot of staff. So,
Right.
you know, so the group size really impacts us.
Mm-hmm.
But we're going to do sort of a train-the-trainer model, which basically means we'll train a core group of people who will then go out and train departments.
Okay, okay.
So
That makes sense.
I'm really excited about it. Again, I just wanted to mention that to you. It's sort of a difficult topic, but at the same point, it's really important,
It's where we live
and
in.
I wanted you to know that we're going to continue to do all we can to keep everyone safe.
great.
Fantastic.
And budget discussion. So you have on a yellow piece of paper the timeline for budget development and planning schedule. So the principals will be getting we've begun the discussions, actually. They're to turn in their budgets by Thanksgiving. Great thing to give thanks for is to be done with the beginning parts of it. And then we'll be having meetings to go over their requests, setting goals and priorities. And that's something that I want you to start thinking about. What is it that you would like to have for your school? As I mentioned, at this point in time, I believe we will be appropriately staffed to maintain the staff we have. I don't see any great decline in enrollment at all, but I think we have the staff we need at this time, which is great. Melissa just did her presentation on some of the items we might need for curriculum. And in terms of a capital plan, Kane had worked on some of that, updating it, and we'll continue to bring that forward probably at the next meeting. Obviously, we're going to continue with the projects that we have. We are working our way through that. We'll be having Marie come and do a presentation on special education at our next school committee meeting. I think that's really informative, and I think everybody really learns a lot at that point in time. And also, I'm going to ask Steve Pello to come in and do a presentation on some of the technology.
Good.
So that'll be at our next meeting in November, December-ish. Christine puts in all the information about utility, bus contracts, personnel, insurance, things like that. And then in January, we will bring our preliminary budget. So if you could, before the next school committee meeting, if there's anything in particular an area that you are concerned about, something that you really want us to look at, that's pretty much how we're basing it, and that's the information that's really important for Kane to know. I think Kane and Brian have done a fantastic job, and Matt, of maintaining the building, the interior of the building. The building has really taken on a new color, literally, with Kane at the helm. And I mean that in a positive way. He's not even going to smile. Come on, give me a smirk. So, Kane's got certainly livened things up here. And
We all know what's on his wish list.
Yes.
Poster machine.
A what? A poster machine? He always wants a poster. It's always there. We'll get that PTO to get him a poster machine. You know what? We should do a GoFundMe, Kane. Do a GoFundMe. A GoFundMe. GoFundMe. Donors choose. You should do it. I bet you.
Next year, I'll put that in.
I'm only coming back.
Nice to know you can.
There you go. We'll continue to work with the Board of Selectmen and Finance Committee in terms of as we go forward. And I don't know a date at this point in time for town meeting, but sometime in May. And lots of meetings. We usually vote the budget by March, the March meeting. So the schedule for this fall, we'll have another meeting in about 6 weeks, but then we'll be on a monthly basis once the budget starts coming in,
Yes.
okay? But again, the next meeting, we'll have Marie here, and we'll have probably Steve Pello.
Awesome.
Okay, both of them. in
Yep.
one day.
They either will both
We
be
might
there
as well
or
if they're
depending,
gonna
yes,
be-
it's sort of helpful
Yeah.
to get them both in there.
Yeah.
Again, with the 6-week schedule, I have to admit, I'm still a little bit lost as to where I'm supposed to be at what
Mm-hmm.
time. I haven't quite adjusted to it. I'm a creature of habit. It's Monday, I'm supposed to be.
Me too, and I didn't take it off my calendar,
Yeah.
and I was like, I don't think we're
Yeah,
meeting tonight yet.
so I'm still working with it, but I think this has worked fine. I mean, I don't feel like anybody's missed anything by that 2-week change. I mean, it's been fine, I think, so far. So, and I certainly appreciate not having quite as many meetings, and thank you for moving back to 6. That's even better. So,
Yeah, is that working for
Oh, yeah.
everybody? Yeah, better, to be at, meeting at 6?
yeah. Yeah, we're all real happy.
We can take it back.
Yes, no, we really appreciate it, especially if you have a night like tonight. I mean, it's 20 of 8, it would be 20 of 9.
Yeah.
And then you add an hour and a half drive home.
When it's
Yeah.
snowing and sleet.
Yeah, exactly. It's really long, so thank you. And I think that was all I had.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks, Joy.
Yep.
All right, so we don't have a need for executive session. Some dates to remember, October 18th, it's an early release date for grades K through 6. It's at 12:45, which means there will be lunch served, right? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. And November 12th is Veterans Day, there's no school. November 21st, or Veterans Day is observed, there's no school. November 21st is an early release, 7 through 12 at 10:45 a.m., K through 6 at noon, there's no lunch that day. November 22nd and 23rd, we're off for Thanksgiving. December 3rd is our next school committee meeting at 6 o'clock.
December.
What do they do on voting days? Do they just block off the gym? Is that-
Yeah.
We locked the double doors.
And that's locked, yeah.
And what do the kids do for gym class?
It depends on the weather, Kane. It depends on the weather. They're either outside or in the, yeah,
It should still be warm enough.
yeah,
They go for recess.
November?
Yeah.
yeah,
It's early November.
yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
with that, I think we're all set. If
Excellent.
nobody else has
Thank you.
anything else they want to contribute.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wednesday at 3, they're starting the exterior punch list.
Right.
Oh, that
right,
walkthrough. I'm sorry.
To kind of,
Yep.
whoever wants to be part of.
The
That's
next
right.
building
adding
meeting,
things on the punch
Yeah.
list.
I have Thursday, the 25th at 3.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
So right now, the focus is kind of on the entryways for the most part.
Gutters,
Gutters,
were they done over the weekend?
I haven't even gone around.
Because that was a line in the sand.
Oh, yeah, Tuesday, tomorrow.
It's a good point. I haven't, I can
That's fine.
double check.
No, I'm sure Matt's on top of it.
There's a lot of things that need to be
Yeah.
addressed.
Are there any leaks in any of the classrooms from the windows at school?
Minus that one that was over on the side a couple weeks ago, but that was the
We
only.
had a lot of rain, so you would know.
Yeah. So, we haven't done anything since then. But we're making our list, Brian and I and Matt, to make sure they be added to the punch list. And as we see things throughout the day and we're living it, breathing it, so things do come up. I grading on the side of the building, just kind of washed away, and that real heavy, they just regraded that corner on the east side, and it just, the way the rain hit, it all washed down to the playground. So, it's on the bunch of this. And I guess the one major hiccup is the doors, as we've been talking about. There's a multiple amount of doors on the backside and some other areas of the building that will be delayed until December. So they probably won't be until Christmas time.
Before like,
Everything's gonna go fine this time. We were assured everything's gonna go fine this time.
they told me they'd be done with it by September at the building meeting in August, so.
Yeah.
When I say Jared, the building looks awesome from far away.
Did you
It's
find
good.
did you find like 5 feet on the street yet where you could stand from and not see any blue siding or blue wrap?
It is, when, like Brian said, when you look from far away, it really does look great.
I was out at recess with the kids a few weeks ago, and I was like, a good 100 yards from the building. Wow, it looks beautiful. It really does. The chimneys are beautiful, the roof is beautiful, the siding. Maybe a little closer.
Yeah. We'll get there. Yeah.
Yeah, we will.
It'll be a Merry Christmas. when we all get
Yes.
Positive psychology.
There we go.
Practicing. And just to kind of highlight the communication, we kind of make sure that we strive on having the communication from the school be a top priority. So we use multiple resources for a website, Facebook. We use a school newsletter. We send out email blasts. Classroom teachers, we make sure that they're communicating. A lot of teachers have gone to social media as one of the ways to communicate the easiest. And I think that many of the classrooms are doing that, whether it be Class Dojo or Blooms or Remind. We have gotten some feedback, or maybe it would be just one social media at least that we encourage here. We don't, because there are probably families that have multiple children that could be using
Oh, yeah.
3 different types of social media. We apologize for that. I guess we kind of left it open to teachers to use it as whatever they're comfortable with. But now we're almost back at seeing some of the obstacles that come up when we use different types of stuff. We'll bring that next year. Again, we are always looking for the feedback, but communication is top priority. And I think we're trying to make sure that that is something that we can't overdo in a sense. So, we make it on our to-do list. If there's any feedback that you have for us in terms of communication, then please let us know.
Class Dojo is what is being used in kindergarten class my daughter's in. Seems to be great, so.
I think Class Dojo is probably, in my opinion, probably the best one.
And I would agree with you both, because I think Class Dojo does seem to be the one that's the most user-friendly and for parents, but also for teachers, it's the easiest one to upload. And Ryan and I are both on Dojo, so we get all the teachers are there, so we can see everyone's kind of class story with it, so. We like it, but there are some that have tried other means, just, I guess, for their own personal preferences, but maybe we can start pushing more and more people to go. And then a couple of upcoming dates there. We have the book fair this week in the library. Students go during their designated library specialist time. And also the book fair will be open all the way through during conferences on Thursday. Progress reports went home today for first term. And as I mentioned, we have conferences on Thursday night. We have a 12:45 dismissal. Conferences typically start around 1:15. You should have received something where you registered for pick a time for conferences. If you didn't, hopefully there's some other means of scheduling or communicating with your child's classroom teacher. The 19th, we have our PTO meeting, 9 a.m. And Friday, October 26th, we have the PTO Halloween Social. And Friday, November 2nd is our 20th annual turkey trot. Time's flying.
Thanks, Ken.
Thank you. Standing in for Christine
I am
tonight?
standing in for Christine tonight. Christine's on vacation this week, so I will make an attempt to cover some of the areas she had. As I said, I talked about the warrants, the single signature warrants. Thank you, Gordon, for stopping in, and also the payroll that you signed off on. You have the finance report in your packet. Everything is going very well so far. Currently, special ed contracted services is in the negative, but it is still early, and there's always a lot of movement in special education. There is not actually any areas that Christine had any concerns about at all at this point in time. So it was a nice, easy clean. That's why she takes off early before anything happens. So far, so good. So we're happy.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yep.
Ms. Brewer?
So our presentation tonight is behind you for visuals. Tonight, I would like to provide you with an overview of the Next Generation MCAS for Halifax Elementary School. Some of the slides have been adapted from the Massachusetts Department of Education slides, and some are particular to Halifax. And I did struggle in terms of trying to make this a reasonable yet informative presentation for you, because there is so much new information. So I'm happy to try to answer any questions you may have and reflect upon some of the things that we have discussed as a team as we're learning this new system ourselves. So last year I provided you with some introductory information regarding the Next Generation changes. This will be our second year of data with this new system, and I want to make one cautionary emphasis here, is that this data should not be compared with the MCAS legacy data, and the state is very clear about that. You'll see that in most of their presentations, that again and again they're reminding us not to compare this with the old MCAS legacy data. It's a new test, it's a new system, and the two are not comparable. So overall in the state, I wanted to give you a sense of the different accountability categories for schools. Schools are categorized as meeting targets, partially meeting targets, in need of focused targeted support, in need of broad comprehensive support. And in the state, 31% were categorized as meeting targets, 53% were categorized as partially meeting targets, 14% categorized in need of focused targeted support, and 2% categorized in need of broad comprehensive support. In addition to this accountability data summary, and for Halifax, we were categorized as partially meeting targets, and I will provide you with more information as to why that is. We're also, in addition, each school is assigned a percentile, and a percentile is calculated using all of the available indicators for a school. Halifax is in the 67th percentile for all schools that provided the Next Generation MCAS. And what's new is that in the past, the percentile was based on, let's say, similar elementary schools. This year, both elementary and middle schools took MCAS Next Generation. And eventually, all schools, elementary, middle, and high school, will be taking MCAS Next Generation. So all schools will be assigned a percentile. There wouldn't be those several categories. So you'll notice some shifting with schools, because now it's not just elementary schools that they're being compared to. They're being compared to middle schools. And next year, not only will they'll be compared to all schools in the Commonwealth. So that's a change that I just wanted to make you aware of. What that means is that Halifax is performing better than 67% of the schools that gave the MCAS Next Generation test. And that's both elementary and middle schools. So this slide reminds us of all of the new accountability indicators. And so you'll see achievement, student growth. For non-high schools, if you follow the first column, we're not worried about high school completion here for Halifax, but it is an indicator for our high school. That's that second column to the right. So we're going to be focusing on the indicators here for non-high schools tonight. English language proficiency, if we had a subgroup of 20 or more, we do not. So you will not see English language proficiency numbers tonight. And then finally, our additional indicator is chronic absenteeism. And chronic absenteeism is defined as the percentage of students missing 10% or more of their days in membership. So you're looking at approximately 18 days.
And that would be 10% of the enrollment, so 60 children would have to miss
It's-
days.
10% of the school.
10% of
10%
the
of
time
the school
you're in
year.
classroom. So 180 days, 10% of that,
So that's
18 days.
A child is chronically absent if they've missed 18 days.
That's the definition of
Oh,
chronic
okay,
absenteeism.
for each student, it's not for the.
Yeah,
Right.
every student.
Right.
Oh,
So, next slide, please. The weighting of indicators in non-high schools and in high schools, but you can see the breakdown here for an elementary school where it's about approximately a 3-to-1 ratio as the state promised, with achievement at 67.5% and student growth at 22.5%. And then chronic absenteeism making up another 10% of our weighting. Next slide. So then, we have targets that are set for each indicator.
Can I just ask a question? on that?
Yes.
So Halifax has been tagged as having chronic absenteeism, or that's just part of the factor?
That's just part of the factor.
Okay.
That's one of the indicators they look for.
Okay,
This isn't Halifax data yet, she's just trying to explain.
overall?
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
So then,
The same thing.
these are targets. These are general targets for schools across Massachusetts, this next chart. So there are two categories. We look at these indicators for all students, and we also look at these indicators for the lowest 25% in some categories. So if you look, we have targets for all students for ELA achievement, math achievement, science achievement, ELA growth, math growth, EL progress if we had 20 students in that category, and chronic absenteeism. And then there's certain categories that are for high school only. We also have targets for the lowest 25%. That's in ELA, math, science, ELA growth, math growth, and chronic absenteeism. So who makes up this lowest 25%? Students must be reported in the October SIMS for 2 consecutive years in order to count in this group. And the lowest is based upon your combined ELA and math scores. Those are the students that make up your lowest 25%. The state shares that lowest 25% in the principal's drop box to help the schools provide targeted assistance for these particular students who fall into this category. You can see here that districts and schools are now focusing on lifting the lowest 25% regardless of achievement because of this formula. So it places a special emphasis, regardless of what your achievement is, you must work on improving the achievement gap for these children. So let's talk about the awarding of points. Points are then awarded based on progress toward your target for each indicator. And as we said before, the state sets the targets based upon your school's trends and what they have defined as a reasonable expectation. This year's targets are for 1 year only. Long-term targets will eventually be set, but we do not have any specifics on that yet. So if you declined, you didn't receive any points. If there was no change, you received 1 point. If you improved, you received 2 points. If you met the target the state set for you, you received 3 points. And if you exceeded the target the state set for you, you received 4 points. Go on. So We're going to look at some charts that are relatively similar to charts we've looked at in the past, and that you'll feel relatively comfortable with. The first one is ELA, all grades, Halifax. And I want you to pay attention to the bar chart to your far left and to the right. The way the state creates them is they put the school, the district, and the state all on one chart. And for Halifax, the data is the same for school and district. So we're paying attention to the far left, which is the school, and the far right, which is the state. And here you'll see that Halifax is exceeding the state in terms of exceeding and meeting expectations at 58% versus the state in ELA, which is at 50%. Next is an ELA comparison of last year to this year. Remember, we're not going to compare it with the legacy MCAS, but we can compare it with last year's data. And last year in ELA, we were at 51% meeting or exceeding expectations. Now we're at 58% at meeting or exceeding expectations. So a slight increase over the previous year.
Can I ask one question?
Mhm.
So are the students that took the test from the previous year being compared to what they get from scores for this year? Is it the same students, or is it looking at grade 3, how grade 4 did and how this year's grade 4 did?
This one is grades 3 through, is it 3 through 6? This one's 3 through 6. So this is grades 3 through 6 in 2017 compared with grades 3 through 6. So the students could in fact be different because obviously some of your students have moved on.
So it's
And you have a new group of third
So you're
graders.
looking at all 3 through 6 graders last year.
Yeah.
They set targets, goals based off that. Now you're looking at 3 through 6 this year. So your 6 moved up. I'm sure there was some intertown moving, and then 2 moved into 3.
Now, when we talk about the growth statistic, we will be looking at the students' movement. So the same group of students, but we haven't talked about that yet. Let's see. So the next one is math for all the grades, 3 through 6. And you'll see, once again, the school outperformed the state at 59% versus meeting and exceeding expectations versus 47% the state. The next chart is the math one-year comparison. In 2017, we had 64% meeting or exceeding state standards, and then we had a dip in 2018 at 59% meeting or exceeding state standards. So again, we don't jump to conclusions because sometimes we look at a cohort of students, especially in elementary school, we might be dealing with smaller numbers that can cause greater fluctuations. There are any number of issues that can account for changes, but at the same time, we want to look at what may have caused the decline, and we want to try to address those types of issues to make sure that we are addressing all of the standards and that we don't have gaps in our curriculum. And I know that Melissa will also be talking to you about the progress they're making in the math pilot this year. The science legacy. So this is MCAS legacy, and so this is a very familiar chart to you. It's in the old-fashioned blue and pinks and reds. So again, the school outperformed the state, 59% advanced or proficient. Remember the terminology changes with the legacy test. 46% of the state advanced proficient in science, grade 5. So we're just looking at grade 5 here. That was the year of the science test. And then a 4-year comparison, because this was the legacy test, we're able to see that between 2017 and 2018, we moved from 48% advanced proficient to 59% advanced and proficient. And over time, we see a relatively stable. We see a slight trend towards an upward tick in 2018. What we should note is that this is the first year that our students have taken science as a computer-based test. So that's just an interesting note. The next is a chart of average scaled score and growth. So to give you a sense, in order to meet the target, you have to have a growth score of 50 or higher. If you have 60 or higher, you have exceeded the growth target. If you look at, in grade 3, we can't have average student growth because we have no previous year scores from which to compare them. But starting in grade 4, as you go down, you can see the English and math scores, and they're reflecting average to strong growth, 43.9 being average growth and 56.2 being strong growth for mathematics. Again, average growth in English and math in grade 5, and then strong growth in grade 6 with 61.9 and 66.2. So what we want to see is growth scores around 50 or higher, and that means that we're meeting the growth target for our students. So let's look at what the new accountability report looks like. This is just a snapshot of the accountability report. What's missing from the snapshot is the fact that Halifax is listed as in the 67th percentile. So we talked earlier about what that meant in terms of achievement percentile. This part of the report card really focuses on all of those targets that we summarized before and where we did and did not receive points. On the left-hand side, you see the points for all students in each of the categories. On the right-hand side, you see the points that we did or did not receive for the lowest performing students. And then you can see a total, the weighted total for each of the columns, the percentage of possible points that were earned, and overall you'll see that we earned 60. I'm sorry, my eyesight is terrible right now. 65%. And this put us in the category of partially meeting targets. In order to be in the category of meeting targets, we have to raise that to 75%.
To exceeding?
To meet, to go to the next level of meeting
Oh,
targets.
partially, right.
Okay, so we can look at this data even deeper, and that's what I'm going to show you next. And we can go even beyond this to the classroom level and the student level data, but for tonight, for our purposes, to give you a sense of how these targets are affecting our overall accountability report. This is the achievement, the ELA point detail, and you can see they first list our 2017 achievement for each of the subgroups that we had 20 or more students for. And then the second column is the 2018 achievement. The change, and you can see there's positive change in all of the categories. You can see what they set our targets for. That's the next column. And the number of students and the points earned, and then finally whether we met the target. And so for all students, for the lowest performing, the highest need students, and the economically disadvantaged students, we met the target that the state set for us. We exceeded the target for students with disabilities in Halifax. And for the subgroup white students, we improved, but we didn't meet the target. And so you can see all of the points that were earned in ELA. Let's look at math. Again, you see the same subgroups. They parse out the categories over here to the far left, where we had 20 or more students. You can see our 2017 achievement level, our 2018 achievement level, the change, and you see the decline, except for lowest performing students, where we exceeded our target. You can see that in all of the other categories, our scores slightly declined, and that resulted in 0 points. We can take a look now at the growth detail. The target is 50. Our mean student growth percentile, and by the way, it used to be median. Under the new system, it's now mean. It's now the average of student growth percentiles. Median, because I know it's been a while for many of us since we've had this in school, but just to review, median is the score in the middle. Of all the scores, what's the middle score? Whereas mean is the actual average of the student growth percentiles. And some people think that this is, the state obviously is moving towards this, Some people are unhappy with this because it kind of has more, it can fluctuate more depending upon your outliers, your two extremes, whereas the median is always the midpoint. Regardless, you should know that it is the mean and no longer the median that they're looking at. So we are very close in most categories to meeting the target. In economically disadvantaged, we met that target, but in every other category, we were below target. And so that accounted for the 2 points versus 3 points in those categories. Let's look at math detail. Remember, in the last math, we saw that achievement-wise, we had lost some points. Yet in growth, here, we're meeting our targets. So we have points in all of our subcategories and very high growth in all of our math classes. In all of our math categories, I should say.
And that's, sorry, that's because of the mean versus median argument?
No, not necessarily.
So our growth
Our growth is taking a
is
group
meeting
of-
the targets,
Yep,
but in our detail, we've declined on 5 out of 6.
in the achievement.
Right.
And but remember, those are targets that the state set for us.
Well, no, I'm not looking at target, I'm looking at achievement versus achievement. So between 2017 and 2018, are all students in achievement detail changed by minus 2.1.
Yes,
But if we're looking at growth detail, we've met every one of our targets.
yes. And so now let's recall what growth, would you like to?
What am I meant?
Okay, so let's go over the difference between the two. So achievement is a score, an expectation, and you have a target that they want you to improve by.
Which is,
Not the 2018 target, that's a different target.
Okay.
That's the growth target.
okay,
So whereas growth, when you look at growth for a child, they look at students who scored similar on the last test. So within that cohort of students, the next time they took a test, they compare that with students who scored similarly. And it's that comparison. So our students exhibited high growth in comparison to students who scored similarly on the last test.
but their achievement declined.
Yes,
As a whole, yes.
as a whole,
I
But
didn't
it's
do well
also
in
different
statistics.
students. That's why, too.
yes.
It's not the exact same students all over again. Because when you're looking at the school as a whole, you're looking at Halifax Elementary. But what's not included is the new third graders and then the outgoing sixth graders.
So-
That's why it's
But
different kids.
isn't the actual achievement supposed to be if a kid scores poorly on a test, you use more resources on that child to help them come back to level or wherever they're
Well,
supposed to be?
By this chart, then we did, because that's the only one that's exceeding targets.
But isn't that the goal of?
Yes,
Is-
no, I'm with you.
So there are multiple factors that go into the accountability rating. And the reason being is that for some schools, they could score well achievement-wise and never really have to focus on the students who might have been struggling. Whereas other schools might be doing a lot to help students grow, but never achieved those grandiose levels of achievement. And yet we're highly effective schools. So the new system seeks to combine the two measures to give a more complete picture of both achievement and growth. And we are trying to figure out how to best meet the needs of all of our students, given all of this data.
Okay.
So on the one hand, it's more data than we've probably focused on in the past, which is great. It gives us a better picture.
Yeah.
On the other hand, it can also be overwhelming. And we have to be very careful not to make sweeping generalizations or rush to judgment, because again, we're still only looking at 2 years' worth of data in a relatively new system. And so we want to be proactive and we want to work to create plans for our students to help everyone be successful and to do well on this measure of accountability. On the other hand, we don't want to be overreactive like we did when MCAS first came out many, many years ago, when school systems rushed to judgment and they started cutting things like music and art and filling the child's day up with just English and math. So those kind of reactionary things that school systems did out of fear of what these scores may or may not mean.
And what is this actually tied to for,
Like accountability.
accountability from the state for, in terms of the budget? Nothing,
Budget?
right? So when it all comes down to it, as long as the kids are getting a good education, all
This
this,
is one point in time.
all
But
this, all
You
this
can
is.
spin that depending on which page you look at, so.
So, I mean, I can tell you as just going through school here, I would put abracadabra on this whole thing and not care. And then everybody would be looking at this data and making assumptions based off of that.
Well, that's, I mean, you can pick and choose which slide you want to look at and make an argument either way, I guess. But I understand, wait, I understand. but it's a
It
little
becomes more
frustrating.
high stakes when you start talking about, and all of this culminates in high school, when a child is required to have a competency determination, when they must pass it in order to get a high school diploma. And so that's just another way of looking at this. So we all do our part to make sure that our students are meeting the standards, not doing well on a test, but that all students have equitable access to those standards and a high-quality education. This is one way to measure that effort. And so standards in some ways have helped produce greater equity in schools, but they haven't closed the achievement gap, nor did they shine a complete light on all of the wonderful things that a school offers or does.
And the competency test doesn't care about your growth, does it? It's 100% achievement.
No,
I'm not trying to make light of it, I'm just,
right.
that's,
But I mean, if the school is focused on bringing children that are below level and bringing them up and continuing to hit the curriculum that's been set forth, I think the kids are getting a good education, and that's the
I think
main
that's the
point.
fine line that you have to determine as a school. I think there are some schools that look at the subgroups, and my former school is one of them. They did very well last year because they scored very high on their low-performing students. So you can look at the numbers all you want.
but what percentage are the
It's
low-performing
assessing
students?
and really working with all students,
The
and
lowest
not.
25.
Lowest 25.
Right. One of the worries that I have with the new system is that the focus is on the lowest 25.
Yeah.
So are you focused so much on your lowest 25?
Or are you just trying to
You're
keep
not
building
paying
up
as
the
much
other-
attention
yeah.
to the middle and the high students who still have
Yeah.
the right for growth.
No, I
So
mean-
I think what Jill's trying to point out is they're trying to achieve a balance here, but
Which
you know,
I-
it is a huge amount of
See.
information.
I appreciate that, but when you look at achievement,
But
the numbers are down.
It's frustrating
Yeah.
for me that,
Oh, I
you
can
know,
imagine.
that they keep focusing on this, we want to focus on every child, not just the lowest
Yep.
25, but.
So just one more question. Is the testing for this year, say the math test was based on fractions, decimals, and multiplication for one of the tests in math. If the number of questions changes that they divide out, if it's,
It always changes. It always changes every year.
so if you move to focus more on fractions one year,
Yes,
and
exactly.
spend more time,
Yep.
and then now there's more questions on multiplication.
it keeps the teachers on their toes.
Yeah.
That's what prevents,
But-
that's
but-
what prevents Allison from sorry, I'm just picking on
No,
you.
no,
But,
it happened to me
hey,
last
this
year.
year, there was 10 out of 12 questions on fractions, we were gonna hammer fractions home.
Yeah.
And then her
that's
class does it
basically what I did
90%.
last year, and they asked
You're
one
being
question.
Yeah.
It wasn't fractions, but.
But if you pick up the trend, Gordon, with your programs and your curriculum that you're using, and you look at, your results and you analyze the results.
I think if anything, it probably enforces well-rounded curriculum.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes,
Yes.
Yeah.
so I learned my lesson.
Right.
And now I'm just gonna, I'm not gonna put all my emphasis on one thing, I'm gonna, yeah.
I just kind of derailed your presentation. I
It's okay,
apologize.
no, it's important for us to have the conversations because we're figuring out our way through this as well and trying to figure out how much emphasis and how to best react to the data that we see in front of us.
Well, I think you can take in data in clearly a lot of different ways, and it can lead you to a lot of different assumptions or whatever.
So chronic absenteeism, I bothered to include this because this is a new indicator for us and not because it's so very compelling, but we went from 5.5% to 3.9, which is good. We exceeded our target. And you can see in most categories for these subgroups, we're meeting or exceeding the target. So again, this brings up big implications for us. This isn't just unexcused absences. This is absences. So when you talk about home hospitalization tutoring, we have to be very careful to code those students who are beginning to receive tutoring at home as home tutored, so that we're not penalized for absences. But it's bound to have some implications for school systems who have been heavy on suspensions, for example, because those could affect your chronic absentee rate. So it's bound to have an impact in the way that schools look at discipline, things like in-school suspension versus out of school, and finding ways to kind of relationship build, which is known to have a better effect than just the disciplinary cause effect that, while we're living up to our policies, doesn't always have the long-term effects that we had hoped on student behavior. Positive behavioral supports, things of that nature, building a positive environment, positive psychology in the classroom at a very young age. All of these things, having a growth mindset for students, engaging students in the classroom so that behavior in attending school is something that we're more likely to see from our children and from our students, making school a place where they not only learn and grow, but that they want to be and feel safe. And it's a safe place to take risks and to learn. So it's just something to think about, the types of conversations that you may be hearing in schools and in the state. The next steps for us is that the principals have reviewed the data with me. They are sharing their results at the building level, and Kane has already shared the results with his building. Grade level teams, PLCs, are looking at the data, and the student level data as well. They're going to look at subjects, grades, student level data. They're going to identify potential gaps in curriculum if they exist, and recommending interventions and creating plans based upon student needs. But at the end of the day, making sure that we're incorporating good, sound, research-based practices that are good for all students and helping them to learn and grow. Because at the end of the day, that's not a dangerous reactionary thing to do. You know, to make sure that we're utilizing the best practices in our classroom and constantly striving to improve and to find ways to personalize education so that all students can learn and grow. That's our game plan.
Great. Over here.
So,
Ready?
thank you for your willingness to sit through that, and I hope, if I can answer any of your questions, I certainly would love to try.
Apologize, I have to leave.
Thanks, Gordon. I know, my hand's freezing, too.
He lent you a pen and you break it? Don't even bother coming back.
So cold.
I don't.
Oh, okay. No.
Oh, God.
Everybody's leaving. Bye, Gordon.
Bye, Gordon, thanks.
One thing I didn't realize was that the chronic absenteeism includes all the students, not just ones taking the MCAS, which is kind of strange. Find that weird.
I'm wondering why there's a category for just white kids.
It's the largest
It's
subgroup.
our largest.
We don't have any minority
So
subgroups.
in other districts, it'll break it down
It'll
to
say, yep.
Hispanic
Yes,
and whatever.
absolutely.
Oh, okay.
We don't have any subgroups here.
'Cause I was like,
We're not
that's weird.
Yeah, we're not culturally diverse here.
No, I know. I just didn't know if that was true across the state, and I was like,
Would have a whole bunch of different.
right,
Yeah,
right,
yep,
okay,
yeah.
all right. Got it.
Good questions.
Yeah.
I was like, that's a
my God,
little
it's cold in here.
discriminatory, but,
Yeah, and opposite of or something, right?
well, no, I mean,
Okay. All right, Melissa.
yep.
Hi,
Hi.
some new faces. So I'm Melissa Farrell, I'm the K-6 curriculum coordinator and the Title I director.
Oh, have you not met Allison and, well, I guess Gordon too?
No.
So Gordon used to be chair of the finance committee, and he's just started in May on the school committee here, but obviously he left. Allison's been here about a year, right?
A year and a half.
So maybe last fall.
I think I met you last fall, yes.
And Alex too has been here for,
It'll be
or is he
less- It
newer?
will be less because he took over like November.
Okay,
Yeah.
oh, right, because
Yeah.
Kim,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
So, and you're missing him now, but he'll be back. Anyway.
I just, Joy had asked me to come to do a little bit of an overview. It's a big year in my world with the math pilot. So we're going to talk just a little bit about that and why we're in the midst of a math pilot. So there's a couple documents here. In your packet is the letter that went home to families, letting them all know about the pilot. And then also the back of it is the district newsletter, which I submitted just to give sort of like a community overview of the pilot. And then you have another piece of paper, which looks like this. And this one has on it a timeline for the school committee, just so they can sort of see where we are in the process. In all honesty, I feel like this math pilot has been on my radar since I took the job in 2014, because that was when I knew that our subscription for Go Math was going to end. We had a 6-year subscription for grades 4 and 5. So essentially, we paid up front for years of a math curriculum, and we had an alignment that went K to 3, an alignment that went 4-5, and an alignment 6 to 8 in math, and that needed to be addressed or looked at or seen if there was a way that we could make it more consistent and coherent with our math supports. So this is the last year of our subscription for grades 4 and 5. So we are looking at a purchase no matter what. So it's a really great opportunity to look at an alignment purchase. I started last fall with presenting budget numbers just to give people a year's advance notice that this was coming and we needed to look at it. We currently still spend somewhere around $8,000 on Envision's curriculum annually. So I think we can actually be more efficient in how we spend money by looking at something that's a multi-year subscription. So that started in October, and then I've been working with different publishers. We looked at almost 9 different curriculums. 7 of them went to review this summer with a cohort of teachers representing all the grade levels, representing all the buildings, to try and always balance between the 3 different schools or the 3 different districts and then the different grade levels. And then and we looked at some math programs that are very different and very progressive. We looked at some that are published by nonprofits and that are strictly online, and narrowed it down to really what we felt was the comfort level of our teachers in our district and also the setup of our district. We don't have math coaches, so we don't have support staff that can go in and work with teachers to implement a new curriculum. They have to take it on their own. So that's something that I'm always kind of thinking about and looking at, is how to support the teachers in that role. But they sort of agreed, and we did a pretty extensive evaluation process to decide to move forward with looking at the new version of Envisions, which is what we currently use K to 3, looking at the new version of Go Math, which is what we currently use in grades 4 and 5. And then Big Ideas was originally written as a 6 through 8 curriculum. And then over the last 4 years, they've been writing the K to 5, and it was released in April. And so we decided to look at that.
What does our 6 through 8 use now?
Big Ideas.
Ideas.
They do?
Go Math is the earlier version of Big Ideas. It's the same company.
Right.
So it's really only 2 different.
Except for the fact that Big Ideas has now cut the cord
With Go Math?
Yeah.
with Go Math.
Right,
And they've gone to a different publisher, and they've maintained their own entity. So they are their own sort of standalone that works through a publisher just for distribution.
Okay.
Not for any of the content, not for any of the professional development. So it's been kind of, it's one thing to work with a nonprofit publisher, and then this is another sort of like weird sort of dynamic where I have a rep, and then I also work with Big Ideas. For most publishers, it's all in one, and this one is still very split. So,
And does the 6th grades in all 3 towns use
Yes.
Big Ideas?
and all of the towns are aligned. So everyone was using the same thing
Oh, okay.
across the towns.
Okay.
So We have seen presentations by all of the publishers in September. We actually have another one coming up with big ideas. The big ideas presenter had kidney stones. They sent a replacement, and the replacement was from the publisher and not from Big Ideas. And so we asked for another presentation. So they're coming back next week. And then we had all the materials were delivered at the start of the year. So we've received hundreds and hundreds of books and teacher materials and online access. I'm going to start my own moving company. But those have all been distributed and were all received free from the companies, which was nice to sort of, we're doing this process without any upfront cost on our end of things. And teachers are piloting. I can go around. I saw 2 kindergarten lessons last week. I've seen math lessons in 4th grade. But you can kind of walk around the buildings, and there are 22 teachers all throughout the district that are in this process. And so they all have these purple folders that they received last week, which is their evaluation tools that once they're finished piloting something, they evaluate it and hand it back to me. I really want to highlight the teachers in this building that are part of this pilot. You have Christina Jocelyn and Jen Reddy, who are working with their students piloting this year. In 2nd grade, you have Devin Morse and Jean Wilson, who are part of the process. In 4th grade, you have Linda Mullen and Lori Gravel, so the entire 4th grade is piloting. And then in 5th grade, you have Katie Savage who's doing it. So it is a huge commitment on the part of those teachers, because essentially they're working with 4 different curriculums this year and really keeping the focus as to what the standard is that they have to teach, but trying a lot of things. So if you can imagine trying to learn or use 4 different software, that's what they're up against through this process. And they are excited because they all see the opportunity for something new and something better. So I think that that's a real testament to their commitment. We have 534 students across the district that are a part of the process. The students are all evaluating. They have little rubrics that go all the way down to kindergarten, where it's just like a sad face, a happy face, and a blank face. And it says, what do you think about Go Math? And they just circle the one. But just trying to grab as much anecdotal sort of feedback from them throughout the process. Little things like, for whatever reason, they really seem to like the graphics and Big Ideas when I walk into rooms. So bringing that all into play, but then we've also developed a really thorough evaluation tool that looks at these evaluation processes, the alignment to the frameworks around rigor, the student experience, instructional support, assessment, and mathematical tools. So then it breaks it down to all those different categories, and we'll actually have sort of a numerical number that says this is the one that we chose. And then we'll also have all of the sort of qualitative feedback from the teachers and the students to sort of impact that. So there's a lot going on. I'm happy the books are distributed. That was a little bit of a, but teachers are excited, and so we'll sort of see where it is. But so right now we're in the pilot process through January, and then in February we have planned a day to reconvene the team that met this summer, and I will have results from all the surveys, and sort of we'll go from there.
Who was made up of the team?
Those are, so Jen Reddy.
I didn't
Yeah.
even know specifically, I just meant.
Yeah, I know,
It's like a mix of teachers.
So 2 kindergarten teachers, 2 first grade teachers, 2 second, 2 third, 2 fourth, and 1 fifth. And I'm gonna try and, we just couldn't get another 5th grade teacher. My pool of candidates got really, as we go up, the
Yeah.
teachers
There's
specialize.
less, right.
Yes, so it was like, who's available in these 2 days in August?
Yeah.
Oh, you're hiking in Maine? So pull back, so 2 teachers at each grade level that are each from different buildings.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry, I'm shaking, I'm freezing.
I am
It's
absolutely
cold in
freezing.
here.
I'm dying.
No heat till Monday,
All right.
November 1st.
But it's this process is exciting. But and I have all of the initial budget numbers from 2 of them, so I will come with a spreadsheet that looks at what's it look for a year, for 3 years, for 6 years. What do the different programs look like? We've also talked a lot about the idea that different companies come with different professional development, so they come with different support for the teachers. So looking at that piece of it too. So, any questions?
And yeah, so you're going to present all that to us, budget, whatever. Can you also break down like how much of it's comprised online and how much of it is
Yep.
physical, like paper?
Yeah, and I can show you samples too. They're almost all pretty consistent with
Okay.
the same piece.
Okay.
And it was kind of, the committee would say to you, all 3 of them are good. All 3 of them are fine. It's just which one do we actually see a little bit more spark?
Yeah, yeah.
Their alignment is good. I work closely with the South Shore Math Coaches Council, which is literally a lot of people who are either a math coach or a math curriculum coordinator who just does math at the elementary level. So getting feedback from them and looking at, programs that our neighboring school districts are using, what success they're having, what they're struggling with.
How the transition is going into the middle school.
Yep, all
That
those
too.
pieces.
Yeah.
And, I mean, we know right now, we are not helping our students transitioning from 3rd to 4th grade in our math curriculum.
Yeah.
It's what I inherited, it's what's been here, but we have an opportunity to better align.
Yeah. I mean, I saw that with my own child. Now my second one's in 4th grade, and for my oldest one, that was her biggest struggle, was going 3rd to 4th grade. It really was hard for her. In math, I don't know why, but it just was.
I think there's a lot of vocabulary difference. Like, one of the
Yeah.
big differences between two of the programs is just the use of language. And, it's where you see kids struggle, where they're able to comprehend the math concepts, but there's so much additional language added in for whatever reason that it becomes a struggle. And some of the newer programs, like Big Ideas, has an amazing ELL support network. Well, ELL is good for everyone.
Right.
So it's not hurting anybody.
Right.
And because it's a newer publication, they're more on top of that. So, looking at those pieces. So I did not walk into the August meetings thinking that these were the 3 that we were going to pilot. I actually had a very different idea in my head, and I walked out with this and really felt confident in the work of the teachers and that this was what they were behind, because eventually they're the ones that are living it and using it. And this is not our only math support. We still have other subscriptions that we use. We do have some online practice that we use. There are other tools that make up what I call the skeleton of the classroom, and this is just our backbone for some consistency. But it's just exciting. It's an opportunity where we're moving forward in a good way. The other piece that's on the back of this is just an overview of Title I. In my job, I oversee the Title I grant from K to 12. So there's been a lot of conversation about our government and funding for education. There was a time a year ago when I honestly saw Title I maybe going away because we didn't know what was going to come out of Washington. These are entitlement grants. They come direct from Washington, and they can go away in a year's notice. What I can tell you is that you can look at our funding. It's based on our low-income population, so it does fluctuate, but it's also based on our low-income population 2 years ago. So there's a 2-year lag on the numbers that they use to determine the allocation. So we had a slight dip last year in our funding because we actually had a dip in our numbers, but then the numbers should grow because our low-income population has grown since then. They've also increased the federal funding that was released from Washington just last week, so there's potential for us to receive even more funding. The Title I funding is designated to work with students who do not qualify for special education, but who are identified in need of supports. People will often hear me refer to this as frosting on our cupcake. So it is the ability for us to have our school and our supports and then add a layer of support that is grant funded. So it's here. We want to assume that it's always going to be here, but we never quite know. And so we've done a lot of work to sort of align the reading intervention program over the last couple of years. But our funding is there. Our funding is consistent. Our supports in the schools have been consistent. We have one new hire this year who is actually a hire who had worked for the district in the past and had left to become a kindergarten teacher and has come back to work predominantly with our kindergarten students. So it's a good cohort of staff members who are working hard. In this building, there are 4 Title I staff that work with students all the way up through 6th grade. We've added 6th grade into our reading intervention program. We added supports for 6th grade, which we didn't have last year. And the Title I funds training for teachers. It trains professional development. We do the family math and reading night. So if you were here, I was serving hot dogs last year. And then the summer program for our students is funded through Title I, and we've been housing it at Dennett for the last couple summers, and I hope to continue that because it's air conditioned.
I was just going to say that.
It's been nice, and it's also we have 2 locations, and it's a fun opportunity for the kids to get together. And so this year, the biggest transition is that we are benchmarking all of our students in kindergarten through 6th grade for the first time this year. So we now are kind of just grabbing a read on all the kids throughout the year, just to make sure that everything's going the way we expect. And it also gives us a way to easily identify those kids that need the supports. And then we also expanded the Title I reading intervention into our middle school this year. Middle school's gone through some changes around the reading program over the last couple of years. And so we brought in a systematic approach, a data-driven approach to reading intervention for the middle school students. And
I'd be curious to see how that plays out.
The Read 180, yeah.
yeah,
It's been well received so far.
Good,
so-
good.
I
Because I
think-
know it was the previous program was very, I mean, it worked.
Yeah,
It
the
was-
teachers, we had 2 teachers that were
Right.
specific reading teachers.
Right.
So,
So hopefully
as
this will
part of
be
our
just
budget
as
cuts, the
effective.
teachers are
Yeah.
going in. Yeah.
And, yeah, I think we're, we're always looking at our data too, and we're looking at our MCAS and saying like, where do we need to grab, who do we need to support? Title I is something that would look at that 25% and look at those students and sort of see, okay, who have we already grabbed and who did we miss? Why did we miss them? So it's another sort of layer of sort of data for us to help make sure that we're targeting the kids who need the supports.
It's a lot.
Yeah, it is.
It's a lot of information.
Yeah, she's done a great job with this. And with the, one of the reasons why I had asked Melissa if she would be able to come too is, as we're building the budget, Melissa's the one who really helps each of the elementary schools
boy.
dealing with the,
You're lucky Gordon left.
yeah. Really is very helpful.
You knew that.
Yeah,
I mean, I think there's
Yeah.
options too, so
yep.
we have to
No,
sort of.
that's,
So March is when the recommendation will be through.
I'm gonna give you budget numbers long before then, so that you actually
So we
know
know.
Yep.
what the cost is of all 3. But then we'll make
have your
a,
recommendation.
we'll make a recommendation, and then hopefully that'll match the budget.
Yeah. Yeah.
I appreciate your enthusiasm.
Yeah. It's worked, it's worked. The best news is that we have successfully, as we've done these implementations, we've always done all 3 districts simultaneously, which has been something I've been really proud of when I started. We didn't used to all have the same curriculum, 14-ish years ago. Kingston
Well, the
and
wheels
Halifax and
fall off as soon
Plimpton,
as
and
you go to
it was
middle
really very
That's what it
difficult
is.
as they went up to the middle school. So now everybody's on the same page, and the towns all really work together to make sure all the students receive the same information, so.
I work on a regional district and it's the same.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
It's for conversations.
Yep,
Just that you
absolutely.
create networks. This is the first year that we've departmentalized the 6th grade, and they have those conversations now across the buildings, because they happen organically.
Right.
And so that piece has been really powerful. When you start to divide, you just, everybody goes this way. So,
goes this way, and then they all get thrown back in the same pot
Right,
again.
exactly.
And then it's like, yeah,
Exactly.
right.
I chattered my way through that. I'm
Well,
sorry.
thank you.
No,
It is really
That's a
cold.
lot to process, so thank you. If any of us have any follow-ups, we can reach out to you and
Yep.
email or whatever. Awesome, thank you so much. Appreciate it.